Hey everybody, Josh Saracen, World Alternative Media here, and the Republican-controlled Committee on Oversight and Government Reform approved a bill March 28, 2017 to allow for a congressional audit of the Fed's monetary policy. Of course, we talk a lot here at WHAM about the Federal Reserve System and how terrible it is. As we've reported, this bill has been put forward for many years. These bills put forward by people like Senator Rand Paul and Thomas Massie have historically been shut down repeatedly, although even if the bills proposed before 2009 and 2016 were to have passed, Obama would have likely vetoed it anyway. Hell, Bush probably would have as well. Donald Trump has expressed his support for an audit in the past, and for this reason, I will leave you with a clip from an interview I conducted with G. Edward Griffin, author of the Creature From Jeckyll Island, where he went into the notion of an audit of the Federal Reserve.
I'd like to go into the Fed a bit with you, considering you're basically the authority. With Donald Trump endorsing the Audit the Fed bill introduced by Rand Paul and Thomas Massie, what are your thoughts on the development and on this development, and why can't the Fed just be abolished already? I mean, it's kind of an unpopular viewpoint to take because for pragmatism's sake, people say, well, an audit, that could be effective to an extent, but it's certainly not even close to the end all. And if we audit the Fed and then it goes right back to its existence as a central planning kind of branch of a private industry connected to the state, I mean, then we're just perpetuating the same problem. What do you think about this Audit the Fed endorsement by Donald Trump, and why, like I said, why can't we just abolish it already?
Well, you're quite right. I think I want to just answer the question by saying what you said.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, I think you've got the essence of the dilemma there. There's no doubt in my mind that the Fed doesn't need to be audited. It needs to be abolished. But now, having said that, no one, including Donald Trump, no one, a man on the white horse that gets into the White House, does not have the power to just abolish the Fed. The Fed, or he shouldn't have the power, because the Constitution it was created under the Constitutional Procedure of the Legislative Act. That's how it should be abolished. In other words, Congress has to abolish it. People forget that. They think that we now have a king, and he's our king. He's a good king for a change. We didn't like those bad kings that went before him, but now we like a good king. And they forget that we're talking about restraints on power, even of the guy we like if we happen to be in Trump. Okay? So Trump should not have the power to abolish the Fed, but he has the power as a leader to create a movement and an awareness and a demand for Congress to abolish the Fed. Okay? Having made that little delicate point, even Congress is not likely to do that unless Congress has broad community support. There are not many congressmen that are going to stick their necks out and just be elected or non-elected out of office because they took an unpopular stand. You know, we'd like to think that we have principled men in office and that they would stick to their principles whether the people supported them or not. And that's exactly the kind of candidate I would be. But you know what? I probably wouldn't get elected. And I wouldn't be in office to have to go for a second term and so forth. So I realize that there's that issue of pragmatism. Unfortunately, in a system like we have, is reality. I wish it weren't there, but it's a reality. So now the question is there a value in auditing the Fed as a stepping stone measure to creating this public awareness of how bad and corrupt it really is? Well, I think that's a valid argument. I remember when we had a sort of a very limited audit the Fed type of bill that did pass. I've forgotten the name of it, but it was originally a full-blown audit, but it got chopped down and amended. And that little tiny piece that remained allowed them to discover a lot of things about money transfers from the Fed to foreign banks. And that outraged a lot of people. But if they had seen the whole thing that had been trimmed off, they would have demanded abolishing the Fed.
I believe it was someone that mentioned that there would be torches on Capitol Hill if people realized what they were doing.
It'd be more than torches. I think it might be ropes. That kind of thing. So I can see an Audit the Fed bill or movement as having that value. But what worries me is that I also know that the proponents or the people in the Fed might see this movement coming as they do and say, okay, we will now promote, we will now allow an Audit the Fed.
Sure.
As long as we can slow it down and throw roadblocks in front of it, make sure it never happens, or produce a book this thick and it's all whitewash, we checked into this and we checked it. And that was an error. They lost some money there that they shouldn't have, but it was an honest error, and the bottom line is everything is fine. And that could take 5 years, and meanwhile, the train continues. That's what worries me about that.
So it's a step forward, but it doesn't change the deep-rooted problems of central planning, fractional reserve banking, quantitative easing, and debt enslavement. It doesn't change the fact that the currency is printed out of thin air, devaluing the dollar, creating debt and inflation. Not to mention shoving the populace into a bottomless pit of debt and eventual servitude. But all the same, we here at WHAM are big on information, and if we can get information out, further information on what the Federal Reserve is doing, that's all the better. But of course, it doesn't answer the problems that we face, that almost every country in the entire world faces under the central banking systems. So we'll continue to follow this story closely as we have in the past, and we'll be back at you with much more. Check the links below, GoFundMe, Patreon, we can't do it without you. Any donation is very much appreciated, and of course check our address for Bitcoin in the description and the comments as well, and we'll put the QR code on the screen for you to scan if you so please. Stay tuned for much more. This is Josh Sigurdsson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.